What's up, team? Doing all right today? I hope so. I do. I gotta turn this up in my ears. Sometimes I feel like I gotta just write, and then I realize, nope, not right. Not right at all. What is that? That's like, oh, that's this. That's annoying. Got it. Hi, Steven. How's Steven today? Got my tea this afternoon. It's not tea time, it's thinking time, but we're gonna go with tea time during thinking time. Here we are. I'll try to lean away so you're not hearing me slurp. Slurp-a-derp. I suppose I should put a tweet out saying we're actually live now. That would be helpful. Good to hear it. Let's see. Yep, that's up. All right. All right. I should really have done this beforehand, but here we are. All right, almost done. Right now. Okay, go. All right, that'll run. All right. I'm excited about today. I think this will be fun. I do. I forgot to hit these record buttons. I've learned to record like all of these things. It's super helpful. And it's something I tend to forget, which is why I've been slowly like building in automatic records. That's the beauty of things like the Stream Deck and such. Like you can tell it to like go off of the starting soon screen and start recording the moment you hit that button to come off of that. So that's the sort of thing I need to start building more of because I don't do it as much as I should. That's the way it goes. Oh, that's still running. Okay. Got a like already. Somebody's on it. Good job, team. Proud of you. Who's excited about today? I was putting together the outline for this. And as I was doing that, I was realizing that this could either be a really fast stream or this could be a very long stream. And I think a lot of that has to do with whether or not we're going to go super deep on some things, but I don't think I'm going to have an answer to that until we get into it. So we'll dive in here shortly, but it'll be fun. Welcome, Blake. Finishing up a phone call. Okay. I'll just wave that way. He knows I saw him, right? I'm grateful to you guys who show up every time. I feel like you guys always have really good questions too. So I'm always grateful. So hopefully this is a helpful stream today. But a kind of a little bit of a background, like what I want to do today is go through my entire Obsidian setup, which I'm realizing is fairly intense. It's intense as far as a setup goes, with the intention of making it simple and more minimal and lightweight. And that'll make more sense when we get into this. That said, the purpose of this is that we need to, I feel like we need to kind of go through what my setup is first before we start doing this regular, what I'm going to call thinking time. Because what I'm kind of double dipping here. What I've learned is I won't take the time to actually build out thinking notes very well, like the whole making notes concept. I don't do that without like dedicated time for it. So I want to do that live with you in the future, but I know that I'm going to get a bunch of questions about the core structure of that first. So I want to walk through that knowing that this is going to change. But I find that it is, I think it is super helpful to see what the overarching beginning point is for somebody's system and then let it build from there. Obviously, I'm going to have tons and tons of edits over time to how I do this, especially whenever I start explaining these details. But I think it will, I think it'll be good. But anyway, what I was getting at is I like to see how people have things set up. Not necessarily from a I want to mimic you stance, as much as a how are you processing things. And I find that whenever I've seen a lot of people's Obsidian setups, they're kind of complicated. And I don't like that at all. I really want it to be simple. And I have some ideas. I have some thoughts on why I think that a lot of them are quite complicated. Can anybody beat me to the punchline? It's probably not what you think it is. And I'm going to write down this before I forget. If I can figure out where to write it on this outline. It should be up here. Cool. Should we jump in? I feel like we're itching to jump in. I'm itching to jump in. Just making sure I can see the things I want to see here. There's just a lot that I tend to just watch at the same time. Okay, so that said, let's push some buttons, shall we? Welcome to Obsidian. At least my Obsidian. I want to call out very first thing here. Well, let me ask this. What are the first things that jump out to you? And then we'll kind of devolve from there. But the things that I know that are abnormal from the very beginning is that the right-hand sidebar is missing, right? Well, it is right, but it's not right. I can bring it back, okay? If I would get myself onto the correct program, I can bring that in, okay? And you can see a little bit more of that if you get me out of the way. So as you can see, you've got all the linked stuff there on the right, but I don't typically have that up most of the time. In fact, I would almost say it's rare that I bring that in. And the reason for that is that I like to see the calendar view up in the top right. However, all of the backlinks and stuff that people get super excited about and particular about, there's nothing wrong with that, and I don't have an issue with that. It's just something that I don't use all the time. With me? Like, it's just not something that's super common for me. I do pull it up, though. What we're looking at right now, though, is what I call my 0 note. And the part of this is me being a bit of a math nerd, but I'm a big fan of the number 0 for some weird reason. And I think it's because, like, whenever I number things, I always start 0 and then work my way from them. So 0 is my starting point at all times, anytime I've got lists and such. I even appreciate it whenever people have like a chapter 0 in their book. That's just me. I appreciate that. I do the same thing here. This is purely my 0 note. This is where everything starts. This is what I build off of from there. So a lot of people will have like a dashboard note and such. that's essentially the same thing, right? Now, I've done a few things at the top of this. Well, before we do that, before we get into the content of this, let's look at like the theming that I've got here. This is a theme called, what is it? Minimalist. Pretty sure it's minimal. I don't even have it in here. Data view. Why can I not see this? Here. Yeah, minimal. This is the one I'm using. Looks like there's an update to it. Not gonna run an update while I'm live. That is a bad idea. So this is the theme that I'm running. Downloaded 117,000 times. And that theme has its own settings that are in here. And I've gone through all of these, and I don't know how many of them I've tweaked, but it's a lot. Obviously, I've done quite a bit of adjusting to fonts and colors and such. That is actually done, what's the name of the style settings? Yeah. So you can see all of the settings that you can apply here from a styling stance. Obviously, like, this is something I could do code-wise with CSS. This is just way easier. Like, honestly, CSS it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a big, long, drawn-out process to get it the way you want. This is just click it and you're done. Okay? So I'm using the minimal theme. I have a whole bunch of this stuff styled the way I want. And that's how I'm getting the look that I want. There's a little bit of a transparency, like that blur effect on this sidebar. I don't know if you can see that on the stream or not, but it's fairly clear to me. And then these are, of course, all the colors that I've selected for it. I think that theme, yeah, it adjusts like the icons and stuff here too. Basically, a lot of this is a stripping down of all the extras. There's a lot of stuff that I have set to just don't show it to me at all, right? Obviously, you can see that. So I have that, a lot of stuff turned off. I have a handful of things down here. Also, I like that it shows up when I hover over it. It's gonna show me how many backlinks I have. I don't even know what this is. Reading? Oh, it's the mode I'm in. I'm in reading mode, not in edit mode or visual editing mode. The simple look. I'm a fan. Super big fan. How many words and characters are on the page? This is telling me where I'm at in my vault, and then a reading time. I think you can copy this. Yeah, you can click on that and it'll copy it. What's it show me? Yeah, it'll actually show me the full path for that particular URL, which is kind of handy, honestly, because I'll use that sometimes whenever I need to drop it in a terminal or something. iTerm. Let's do the fun part. That's kind of the styling and theming I've got. Again, it's just a base theme that I've tweaked some colors and adjusting some things, just all tick boxes and stuff for however you want. But it seems like that minimal theme is one that people use a lot. So I'm a fan. But I know that whenever people see this, like how I'm running it, it is definitely minimal. Because I know when I first started, when I first started using Obsidian, all the colors and stuff in it kind of drove me nuts. Like I couldn't, like, the layout of it just confused me. I wish it would start with something like this and then let you add in the complexity. Whenever it starts out complex and you have to pare down, like, you have to learn all of the things that it, like, all of those individual components. You have to learn what they are first before you know what you want to remove. Whereas if you have it starting off simple and then you can add to it, I feel like that's better just in general. Just my thought. Let's look at this zero note. This is one that I'm not gonna say I've spent a ton of time on, but let's go into this visual editing, this live preview mode. You'll notice that I've got some code stuff that's happening up here at the top, because what happens is at this zero note, I want to be able to get to my note for today, for the week, and for the month. Like, I want to be able to get to those 3 notes at all times, okay? When I go into edit mode, you'll notice this is for today's date, this is the week of the year we're on, and this is the month of the year we're on. I don't have to edit those links ever because of the data view plugin that lets me drop in these formulas, and those formulas will calculate what the date is, like in the format that I want, the format of those dated notes for me, such that whenever I put it in edit mode and I click on it, it will take me to my note for that day. Okay? That's where I'm starting with. Same thing for the week, same thing for the month. If I wanted to, I could do the one for the year, I suppose. I don't really have a note for the year right now, though. I might next year. Maybe I'll build one later. I don't know. While we're here, welcome to my daily note. This is very simple, I think. This is set up with templater. I think we may get to there. Set up with templater. So this will give me links forward and back. I actually didn't get a note set up yesterday. The one for tomorrow is already set up. Today's dates, all of the links that I might need. These are grayed out because those don't actually exist because I'm a little behind on like creating some of those. But the thing that I've always done with these dated notes is I put this back to 0 at the top, and that lets me quickly get back to that 0 note. The other thing that I've got going on that you may not know, let me do this quick because I want to get this back on my Stream Deck, which I know you can't see. On my Stream Deck, I have a button for 0, and whenever I click on that, it will open up Obsidian and take me to this note. So just as an example, I'm gonna hit a button, takes me to that 0 note. I've got one for today's note as well. So it just makes it easy for me to get to those. I just want something to be able to get me to those kind of core places very quickly. That's the goal. I know some people have seen these, this setup. I kind of just like knowing how far through the year are we. It didn't occur to me till I was sitting here reading this that we're almost a third of the way through the year. How far through the month are we? Pretty substantial amount there. And how far through the week? Or how many, from a week value, how many weeks of the year are we through? Which isn't always the same as the daily view of it. It's a little less granular. I'm not really sure why I like that. I think it's mostly because I can. It tells me what day of the week it is too. So anyway, I just kind of like it. I like that it's simple. A memento mori percentage. How far through expected life? Oh, that's not nice. That's not nice at all. So what would be the number you'd use on the back end? Like, it's easy to calculate how old I am. Like, I could put number of days old that I am based on number of expected days, but how do I pick that day? Just like the expected US lifespan? That would be kind of interesting, actually. Why did you bring this up? You're worse than Mike. That's honestly a kind of a cool idea, though. Now that you're telling me this. 4,000 weeks. Life expectancy percentage complete. But I could easily put memento mori. It's true, you did get Mike to buy a rower. Well done. So that gives me all the percentage stuff. This tasks one, it doesn't get used very often. That's usually if I'm trying to put something up in the future. This is through templater. I'll show you the template to this right after I'm done walking through this, Brian. Great question. I've been starting the process of adding tasks to future notes, which is why, like, you can see this future note is created. This is the one for tomorrow. And I've got here that I need to set up the gym for a banquet that's going on in there. So I'll set that up, but whenever I go to this note tomorrow, I'll see that, and then I know that I need to go do that tomorrow. But the other thing to notice here is these dates and stuff change, even though I created that note. I think I created that note 2 days ago. It's not using today's date as a reference. It uses the title of the note. So whenever I create one for a future date, all of that information is always correct because it uses the date as the jumping off point. So that's just if I have a future task. Because I haven't been using like any formal task management software of any kind, that's what ends up acting as kind of like a reminder for a future date. There's some other ways that I'm doing tasks and stuff. These are just questions. If you listen to Bookworm, you know that I started asking questions on a daily basis. And this is where I do that. These are not long answers. They're usually fairly quick. It only takes me maybe 5-7 minutes to run through these in the morning. Same thing at night. So obviously it's not evening, so I haven't gone through those yet. Anyway, that's my daily template. Now to Brian's question, let's look at, I want to look at my daily template. This is what that template looks like. This is in Templater. Okay. This is intense up here at the top to create all of those links, but just know like it's all the same thing repeated with slightly different formats. That is all it is. Why is this thing having an issue today? See if that's any better. Is it gonna catch up? Let's see. It's still waiting. Still struggling. You guys see me okay? Is this thing just being weird? There it goes. It was being dumb. I think there's something weird. Like whenever I try to do a slightly higher bitrate, it like freaks out. Doesn't know what to do. All right. Looks like it's going to level off now. Strange. Sorry about that. What are we talking about? How to do all this stuff? Really all I'm doing here is the same thing over and over and over again. That's the thing to know. This is definitely just a repetitive thing. Copy, paste, change the format. That's it. Now, I do know that these are like some custom user scripts that I have written to do those. Obviously, the last one is not, but that allows me to get those percentages and such that I'm after. That's what I'm after with that. So yes, this is all 100% done through Templater. Are we caught up yet? There it goes. It's catching up. I think if I throw too much data at this thing, it doesn't like it. It's definitely a network issue, which is weird because I'm the one that built it. So I haven't found the problem with it yet. But it's only whenever I run fairly high bit rates, which I was trying to do, of course, because high bit rates for the win. Anyway, if you're still with me, these are just pure questions. It's just hard-coded into this. There is no fancy thing. But anyway, that's all it is. All it is. Let's see. Where was I? If we go back to 0. These are the same weekly and monthly. I suppose if you're interested, we can look at... Here's the one for weekly. I haven't used a ton of this, but it's all very, very similar. Like in practice, it just calculates all this stuff. Gives me the days of the week as well. Now that I'm looking at this, I don't want that. And then the last one would be the monthly template. This one takes a little bit longer because there's a lot of questions to answer. and I will oftentimes pick the projects I want to complete or focus on for the week. And I'm realizing this is in here twice. Yes. Anyway, there you go. I want to point out a few core concepts that are like behind the scenes of all of this, because it helps me choose how I'm going to do a lot of things here. And the first of those is just purely portability, like future proofing. And it's something that like I'm super particular about. You're welcome, Brian. And I know that I don't want, like, the problem with something like this is that it's easy to like add all of the plugins and do all of the things, and then the next thing you know, it's now a big convoluted mess, and it's complicated to keep it square, I guess. Maybe app agnostic. It's kind of. It's the sort of thing where I want to be able to move it to another app if I want to. Like I haven't even been doing this lately, but I can pull this up in Sublime Text and do some editing there. I could pull it up in like NV Alt or potentially NV Ultra if they ever release it. Have they released it yet? I just realized I don't know the answer to that. So if they ever release it, NV Ultra, it could be used in those tools. Pull it up in Vim in a terminal. I can do that. That said, whenever I decide what plugin or what process I'm going to use in Obsidian in these notes, I'm always wondering how difficult is it to add this feature back in another tool if this tool goes away. If Obsidian goes away, because I own the markdown files behind it, because those aren't going anywhere, because of that, it means that I need to be able to take the syntax that I'm using inside those notes and get my features back, right? And when it's simple things like these little queries up here, those are things that, like, I know how the data view plugin operates on the back end because I've looked through some of the code for it. So I kind of understand how they do that. If I needed to build a plugin that did what data view plugin does in another tool, or just in a blanket visual tool, I'm not so certain that it would be difficult for me to port over the data view plugin to something else. I could be way off on that, but I feel like I'm technical and scripty enough that I could probably do that, which would be super cool, but I don't think I'll need to do that for quite a long time. So that is a plugin I know is very advanced, and it's one that I feel like I could port over if I wanted to. Because of that, I find that I end up using that plugin for almost all of my like complicated needs in Obsidian, and I hesitate to even call them needs, but I'm just always paying attention to, can I port this over? Okay. The other core concept, there's really two: keeping simplicity and portability. The other is keyboard driven. And you'll notice, like, as I've been doing this, I'm actually not using the mouse very often. I'm very often doing a lot of this from the keyboard. I know that people love those tools. What do they do? Like when you take your mouse and you hover over something, it'll like show you a simple preview of what it is. Can I turn that on quickly? I think it's a core. It's a core thing, I think, isn't it? Page preview, hover an internal link. Yeah, this. So if I, no, how does that work? What's it called again? I just turned it on and then I forgot. Plugin list. Why can I not see it? And it just hover? My eyes. I saw something pop up here, but I can't. Page preview. That's what it was. Search, reading view. Maybe I've got to trip it. It's not going to do it. Oh, there it goes. This. It's like whenever I hover over things. How did I do that? Why will it not show me that? Anyway, that's what it does. There's ways that you can set it up to where it does that all the time. I don't want that. Now I got to get it turned off. Page preview. Make it go away. I don't want that. And it's because people... I know there's ways that like you can pull that up and you can edit inside of it. You can have like the sliding panes thing. Who is it? Machusek? I can't think of his name. They like to have like a whole bunch of these things open at one time. I set this up such that I can navigate quickly with the keyboard. So if I'm going forward like this, from the keyboard, I can go forward and back to those notes as I want. Like it's very quick and very easy. I don't know if I command and hover, is that what it is? So if I turn that on, I got like nothing for settings there. Got it. So I got to hold command and do it. That's why I was getting it sometimes and not others. So I know that people like this, but it's like super annoying to me. I can find it now that I've clicked on it how many times. So thanks for that, Brian. But I get why people want to do that, but in my head, just click on it so you could see the whole thing. And then go back. Like, I don't know. I mean, I suppose if you want to see things open simultaneously, but then I would just have two panes and go back and forth. I don't know. It seems weird to me. So anyway, I try to be as keyboard driven as I can, and I think it's some of like the developer in me that I just jump between things very quickly, and I want to be able to open things very fast. For example, I can just hit a quick keyboard shortcut. There is my music. Here's Obsidian. Like, it's that fast, but I'm not doing any of that from the mouse. Like, if you watch the cursor there, it just sits. Like, I'm not doing anything with it. Do I have open? I better not open terminal. I don't know what I got in it. Could be some API keys. So anyway, so much of what I do is keyboard driven that I set things up to be keyboard driven. That's what I do. I'm gonna make this go away because I don't like the thing in the background there. So because of that, I've gone into this hotkeys bit, and I know that I have a lot of things set up. Like I've got this advanced cursors thing. I found out like that I can do like the Sublime Text multiple cursor thing in here. Super handy to be able to do that. So I've got a bunch of these that are set custom. Copying the Obsidian link. What are the custom ones? Can you see? Can you filter this? No. Let me find. The big ones was like this navigate forward and back. I set those up as command forward and back brackets. The reason for that is the keyboard command in a browser to jump forward and backwards in the like to go to the previous page, to go to the next page, not floating between tabs, but back and forth between the pages you've seen. I use that all the time. So I set those up to do that. There's the other one that I use a lot, which is Command L. It's the quick switcher. I don't know what the default is. Command O, which I don't like because Command O to me means opening a file, but I'm not opening file. I'm jumping to a different link, right? So Command L, if you're in a browser, again, maybe this is the web developer in me. If I hit Command L, it goes up to the search URL, and I can type in a search or type in a URL. This is the same thing for me. So that's what I'm doing when I hit Command L. Like, that's very, very quick for me, and then I can jump to the one I want. You know what I mean? Like, that's, to me, that's super, super fast. And it's like muscle memory. So keyboard shortcuts for the win. That's my thing. Simplicity, keyboards. That's so much of what I'm driven off of. Okay, let's walk through what I've got content-wise, because I think that's maybe more of the fun part here. Obviously, this is my 0 page, and you'll notice I've got maps here. No comments, Blake. Because you'll notice these are not maps of content. And I think I have figured out why I don't like that term. I want to come to that when we get to maps. But first, let's walk down this up here. There's nothing in my inbox. I cleared it out this morning. Inbox, which I spell with a 1, because then that forces it to the top. If I spell inbox with a 1, it forces it to the top. That's like anything that's automated. If I have any system that like automatically drops something into it for me to review or that I need to process, it goes there. I don't ever create notes in the inbox, because if I create a note, you'll notice it shows up out here, and this acts as an inbox for me as well. So because of that, I'll move them out of the way. Oh, I just realized I do that. Whenever I have a note that I want to delete, I've got a hotkey on the Stream Deck. I can just hit delete. And what does it do? I think it pulls up the command palette, I think. Let me do that again. Pretty sure it opens the command palette. Yeah, and it goes to this delete current file. But it just does it with a button press. Magically accelerated pilot system. You're a pilot. I can tell. So inbox is just anything that's automatically generated. And I'm drawing a blank on what those are. I think it's usually like pinboard pins, which I'm slowly stopping. Like, I'm not using that as much because I've been doing more with RSS and such. So I don't see that happening too much. Anyway, automated stuff. Bin, B-I-N. This is, again, that's a term coming from a developer world. It's where I like store the things I need for long-term or for acting on the tool and not with the tool itself. You with me? So that's where assets live. If I go into the assets, like this is all the picture files that I've dropped into, or what is it? I've got PDFs in here as well. So anytime I've like drag and dropped a file into Obsidian, this is where that goes. The Bible, if you've kept up with like some of what Mike does, I have ported over the Bible to text files here, and you can see the full list of all of these. Like if I go into Matthew, you can then see all the chapters. If we go into Matthew 10, hey, guess what? Here's Matthew 10 with links that take me to forward and back to the chapters. Yep. Or back to the book itself, back to the Bible itself. So anyway, it's kind of nice if you ever want to embed a Bible verse in a note. Makes that easy. Dated. These are all of my dated notes. So daily notes, weekly notes, monthly notes, those all show up here. And then templates, which is very fun, and the one I think a lot of people get super excited about. These are all the templates and scripts and stuff that I use, which is quite a bit. I'm not going to go into the people one down here below, but I'll show you this. This is the template I use whenever I create a new person note. And I don't always fill, like, obviously I don't fill all of this in, but if I have it, I will. And then I will, below that, start keeping notes on folks. It's a little creepy, but I find it super helpful for me to be able to manage all of that information. So anyway, that's the person note. I have a plant note template because I've been building out like an herb and flower garden, like a medicinal garden of sorts, perennial garden of sorts. And And I've been collecting tons of information about these plants, and I just want to be able to have a place to pull it all together. And you can kind of see that if I go to, let's go to my note for, if I can find it, the 2022 garden. Oh yeah, I moved all this stuff. I haven't looked at it again. Lame. I gotta like rebuild it now. Can I do that quickly? It's not even letting me edit right now. Oh, because I put it out of that mode. It's because it's not in plants. There it is. That's right. I forgot that I used to have a folder for plants, and I kept it all separate. But then I was like, I'm just going to drop it all together. So anyway, that's all the plants that I've got in there for 2022. I've got a picture of what I'm like planning layout wise, but that's another day. So plant note, my project note template. If you saw the video that I did about Obsidian and Alfred project management, here on YouTube, actually, it uses this template whenever it creates those notes. So again, I'm asking some questions about those projects. This part of it's very basic, but the script adds some stuff to the top of it. I'll show you that shortly. The note I used to use for the card catalog for Analog Joe, but that actually needs to go away now. So goodbye. Sorry, card catalog. 3-month schedule. This is for some of the scheduling I do for folks at church. This makes it easy to create the template for it. If I have a tough situation I'm working through, I grabbed these questions to ask about it. And it's kind of weird to ask questions about a tough situation, and I don't answer all of them, but it does seem to help as we're going through that. Checklists, new computer build. If I have a new computer I'm working on for somebody at church. Content, this one I use quite a bit. These are the templates I probably use the most. If I'm writing an article, this is what I use to have a checklist, put the outline, write the actual content. All of that shows up right here. You'll notice at the top I've got this include for a content header. Under partials over here, I have these, and these get reused in other templates, which is kind of handy. It means I can add the same thing to multiple note templates and have it show up many, many times, which is nice. I do this with like post and pre-stream. I've got a bunch of things I do before and after I stream, but I stream both for myself and for Bookworm and for church stuff. But it's all the same. It's all the same checklist stuff within reason. So I have those all repeated. And you can kind of see that here. Like there is some stuff whenever I run a stream template, it'll pull those in. So content templates, whenever I'm creating things, those partials, these are those periodic notes, the daily, monthly, weekly, annual. And then there's some scripts here. These won't open in Obsidian, but I have these set up such that I can run these JavaScript and shell scripts from a templater template. Welcome to the bin. Basically, it's all the back-end stuff for Obsidian. The maps piece. All right, let's talk maps of content, cuz. You ready, Blake? Still around? All right, so if we go to the 0 note, you'll notice I've got a bunch of things called maps, right? With the term maps of content, from the very beginning, I think I threw a fit over that term. And I think one of the things I told Mike about it was that I don't care for the term content really in any context. I'm just not a fan of that term. And it's because it's so, yeah, you got it, Blake. You know, does this work? Yeah, there you go. Well done, sir. Well done. I I don't like the term content because it just doesn't really tell me anything. basically it tells me it's like filling something. Like it adds things to a web page, and there is content on the page and it fills it up. There is content on a video and it fills it up. Like that term is just a generic term for information. And I know whenever people use maps of content, I get what they're saying. They're creating a note that then helps them synthesize and work their way into other notes. It's the jumping off point. Like that's the spot where they want to start their thinking process. And I'm not against the concept. And I it's not even table of contents. It's just another note, like, to me. But at the same time, like, it's more of a connecting point. But I don't really want to call it a connecting point. I don't want to call it a table of contents. Like, I'm fine with the word map. Like, it does create, like, it shows me my way around. Like, I'm fine with that. Which is why I started throwing words on the front of it instead of putting words on the end of that term. I get that this is semantics and it's kind of obnoxious, but that's the way that I think about it. So I've broken this up into 3 different sections. I've got like my creative maps, my thinking maps, and my miscellaneous maps, mostly because I haven't figured out what to call them yet. And personal knowledge, maybe. The creative maps is primarily like the stuff that I create online. So what am I doing for Bookworm? What am I doing for Joe Bewley? What am I doing as a podcast, a newsletter? I'm breaking them down in that form. Thinking maps, this is the one that I'm probably going to be building out here on Thinking Time here on YouTube live streams. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who want to build out the entire structure of their Obsidian, and they want to talk about the tool that they're using to do the PKM piece. And I find that something that would be super helpful is someone to show how they do that thinking live. Like, show me that process, right? Why I use Obsidian? Could you not be content with that? I probably could. In my case. I think that, like, a lot of my use of Obsidian is primarily because it's easy. But again, I've simplified it significantly. Like we were talking about earlier. Like, it could be very complex. And I get that a lot of people open it, take a look at it, I'm like, eh, and then they run away. Like, I get that. Who's it? Dr. Drang did that. He tried it and couldn't handle it. And he's like, I should just do my own. Well, that's the Dr. Drang way. But I know that I'm very capable of using something like Sublime Text. I'm very capable of using something like NV Ultra or NV Alt. Honestly, I actually did some similar stuff to Obsidian in Vim in the terminal. Like, you can do a lot of that. I just find that some of the simple plugins, like the extensibility of it, makes it very, very easy to get it to function the way that you want. And if you were to look through the list of plugins that I use, which I don't think we're gonna have time for today, but if you were to look through all of those plugins, very few of those plugins allow me to edit the type of content I'm putting into Obsidian. Really, all they ever do is adjust the feature set of how the tool operates. How do I find things? How do I navigate from place to place? Like, that's the sort of thing that it helps me. Like, how do I actually do the physical editing? Not what I'm putting in as an edit, but allow me to use multiple cursors. I don't even use tags. Like, if I find a tag, you'll notice I delete them right away. It's because I've kind of honed in on, like, the one plugin that I feel like I can maybe recreate if I wanted to is the data view plugin. So I use everything in the data view format. So all of it is done that way. So yes, that's my initial reaction to that, Steven. The maps thing, though, like, I get that these are like jumping off points. Is something that I'm slowly building out more and more. Thus, this list of maps. And I wanted to keep them separate because honestly, whenever I'm using some filtering, like what you're saying, Steven, like whenever you want to filter across everything, I don't want it to find these map notes. Though as I say that, I know that I sometimes add things to those, and I might want those. So I might change my mind on that one. But right now I want to keep them completely separate. So if I were to go into any of these, like let's go into development, it's very basic. Like right now I'm just showing the projects that I'm actively working on, which this one's Jekyll Posse, which that's a whole other thing. Like indie web, own your data. Posse stands for post on your own site and syndicate elsewhere, which is what I do whenever I send out a tweet. I create a note on my, or a markdown file on my website, and then it sends it out elsewhere. There's a lot that could be done with this type of structure. If I go to, what's one I've got built out a little bit more? I think this one's got like nothing in it. They're not all the same either. If I go to content, this is a Kanban board. This is like all the content stuff I'm working on, whether it's for the suite setup or for myself. It's all here. If I go to the bookworm one, you can see like this is a more recent thing. This is a data view deal going on here. It's just pulling in a table and shows me the notes that I've got for that, along with the links if they exist for the episode when they've gone live. So like the messy middle hasn't released yet. It's been recorded. It's in the middle of editing, but it'll be released here in a couple days. That one, whenever I've got the published date and I've got the link, it will automatically show up here. So some of that stuff is super handy. So they're not all the same. That's my point. But I do like to keep the actual map files separate. Okay. Notes is the big one. This is like everything that's not that. So all of the plants, all of the books, all of the content, articles themselves, all of that stuff ends up inside this list. It's a mess, and I get that. It's primarily because all of those things can be found by going, there's another darn tag. They can be found by going to either the maps or via queries. Queries meaning like what I was just showing you in Bookworm. So that's where like they all show up in those forms. If they don't, they end up being surfaced later by creating links. So basically I'm just using the two forms of navigating things. I've got the folders on the left and links. I don't use tags or anything at all. People I told you about, it's like that's where I just drop in the people notes. It's primarily so that I've got those separated from querying. Projects is one that I do quite a bit with. If I look at the project list I've got here, like these are the projects I've got going on right now. Just noticed that I need to make this one active, not tour through. By keeping this list, this is what I'm using with that Alfred workflow that I was talking about. Like for example, pnew, creating a new project named "This is my test project." Okay, when I do that, it's creating that note here. You'll notice it creates it there as well. If I go to that, it's got today's date linked into it. It's got that project template I was showing you. And then I can also go to the project folder for it. I got to remember how to do that. So if I click on it, it'll show me that folder right here. And then you'll notice I've got notes.url, just so you can see this. If I put this on 0 and go back to this, okay? If I click on this, it'll open up the note for that specific project. Super handy, right? Yeah, YAML is slick. I try not to use it too much though. Mostly because future proofing. So anyway, I've got that set up such that I can do that. Now, if I want to get rid of it, I've got to a thing here to let me delete those. It'll delete the folder. It'll delete the actually, before I do that, there's another thing it does. If I were to check this off, say I've got it done, there is a thing to clean it up and it'll get rid of it. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of those things. Like you can archive it, you can delete it, you can clean up the project list folder or project list note. There's a whole bunch of stuff with that. There's, again, the YouTube video that I've got out on it has all the links and stuff to it as well. Super handy little workflow if you're a big Alfred user. Why is that there? That should not be there. Checkbox types. That's another thing altogether. Anyway, these are all the project folder or project notes, and whenever I archive them, they go into this ZZ archive. So all the old project notes are in there. Queries, just what it sounds like. All available tasks, do tasks. I don't remember what that, how's that different than that? It's not. Weird. I wonder why I have two of those. Oh, that's because all available is everywhere. Tasks is filtered somewhat. Anyway. Super handy to have a spot to keep those separate. But again, I get to those from the queries section here. You'll notice like this is that project list I was just showing you. And you notice how I've got these active flags here. Those are the ones I'm actively working on. If I want to just see those, this will show me that list of just the active projects that I'm working on. So that's, I don't know, it's kind of nice to be able to have the long list, and then I've got like a blank of here's all the stuff that I would like to get to, but I'm not necessarily going to take on right now. This lets me filter that down pretty significantly. You want to direct it at your old NVAlt file? Maybe. Garbage in, garbage out is a big deal, yeah. I would be tempted to say just start new and then port things over as you see fit. That's kind of what I did. Like I had a massive NVAlt directory that I could have pulled in, and I chose not to. I started from nothing when I got into it. But I find that this note right here, that home base, that 0 note as I call it, I find that this is super handy for a jumping off point, like creating something to begin with. And then the daily notes piece, if you can figure out what template you want to use for that, if you get those two dialed in, the rest of it starts to expand off of those 2 points. That's what I have found. And don't automate things if you can. It actually creates more problems than you'd think. What else have I got here? We went through the bin, we went through the maps, the people stuff, the project deal that I've got going on, queries. Yeah, so I am finding myself wanting to spend some time processing notes around non-tactical things. Kindle highlights, you could. The trouble with doing stuff like that is you could easily get into like the old Evernote days of just dumping everything into it. Welcome, Michael. A large file of text files with Agenda, NVAlt, and BB Edit. Oh yeah, BB Edit. I forget about BB Edit. I know that it's something that people absolutely love. I'm not saying it's bad to take an existing directory and dropping Obsidian on top of it. Like you could do that. And I mean, if you do that, you're probably going to spend some time just like reformatting and finding your way around how you want to tie things together, like doing the linking piece, which is fine. I mean, that gives you a base to build from. I think here, do this. Maybe. Oh yeah, I think that's right, Michael, and welcome. But I think if you were to want to do that, just make a copy. Like take your existing notes directory make a copy of it, call the old one archive. That way you've got a backup for it, and then use it on the new one. That way it doesn't like completely screw you over if you decide you want to go back where you were. And if you can get that to work out, then you've got a new home. Hopefully that makes sense. So basically what I want to do is start building out this thinking maps piece and the actual like PKM process. I think I'm probably going to be diving into more of these other pieces as we go, but I think that's where I want to try to focus. And I've got specific topics that I want to build that out for each week. But this thinking time segment, as I'm calling it, is really a focus on let's build the content inside Obsidian and inside this notes structure, not necessarily the structure itself, like the tool itself, right? People love to talk about the tool Obsidian. I kind of want to talk about what I'm choosing to put in it, right? Yeah, it'd be a good way of like cleaning up notes for sure. But I suppose people do post like what they're, but they cherry pick it though. Like if you go watch a YouTube video of somebody that's like, look at my Obsidian setup, Obsidian setup. A lot of times like they're cherry picking the pieces that work really, really well. And they don't like show you the process of building it the way that they want it to be and trying to expand it. Hopefully this is making sense. That's the part I want to show you, is the hard part. Like the building part. And hopefully you can see like a thought process for that. Because obviously like I've got some that I want to think, I want to process, and maybe we'll do it next week, of like owning my own almost micro posts or like anything online, like notes, replies, likes, bookmarks, all of that. Yeah, the messy middle part. Like I want to own all of those pieces, but in order to do that, I have to do a fairly complicated build process of scripting, which I've been doing for the last week or so. I'm not gonna do that live on stream because it involves tons of API keys and it's boring, to be honest, of writing those scripts. Basically, it's an entire Ruby gem that I'm building for Jekyll, which is quite a thing, but it'll be fun. So no point in doing that, but I think the thinking part of why, the why parts and the understanding pieces, that's where I want to go with this. I suppose I don't need this on anymore. But that's ultimately what I want to focus on. Thus, thinking time is what I'm calling that. And obviously it's got a little bit of tea time. My tea's gone cold though. Gonna have to warm that up. It's sacrilegious there. All right, any other questions about this before we're done? I have time, but I don't want to waste your time with me rambling. And I've reached that point at which I'm approaching the rambling Joe. What kind of tea? It's a chamomile tea. I want to say it's a Twinings. Certainly, Steven. Who is the... is it Brian? Brian, if you're still around, thanks for your comments. I know Templater is kind of a fun... It's a fun one. You can get real deep, real fast with that thing. And I know that it's easy to get lots and lots of messy stuff with it too. But it's this whole tool thing is one that people love to talk about Obsidian lately. And I get it. I do. But it's a tool. I like it. Obviously, I'm using it. Yes. Pausing. Sure, go for it. This is why I wanted to do this today, because I knew, and I know, and we'll still have some of this. Whenever we get to the actual thinking moments, like when we're doing the processing of these notes, right? When we get to that point, I don't want like I'm going to have the tendency to want to stop and explain how a tool works, right? That's my tendency. I'm going to want to do that for you because I feel like that's super helpful and you can learn a lot from it. I know I do whenever I see those. But I want to get as much of that out of the way right now as we can. And obviously we've spent an hour on it already. And I'm not going to have an hour to do that every single time. I want to be trying to get the content and the typing out. And maybe you guys can help me come up with better ideas and thoughts to create. So we'll see. So yes, that's what I know. All right, I'm going to split. Thanks for your comments, guys. And percent peace. Yeah, I suppose you could go back and pause and see that stuff. I don't know if there's an easy way for me to share those scripts. At one point I was looking at like an Obsidian scripts GitHub repo. I don't remember if I have that up or not. At one point I was going to do that, but it is what it is. So yes, we're going to do some live PKM building next time. The next stream is in 1 week, same day, same time, Wednesday 1:30 Central. I believe it's May 4th. Star Wars Day. Super fun. From somebody who's only seen one of the Star Wars. Did I say that out loud? All right, I'm going to go. You guys have a good day. If you have questions, send them to me, Twitter, wherever, and we'll keep trucking forward. All right, see you, team. See you, Blake.